Hey friends! I asked you in your last reading response who in your life has had a big impact on you. So, who's affected you in such a positive way? Someone maybe you look up to or that's really important and special to you. And a lot of you listed family members. That was really cool to see, whether it be your adults at home or maybe your aunts or uncles, maybe even a sibling. So awesome that you feel that way about these special people in your life. I've been thinking a lot about that question. There's so many people over the course of my life that's had a really great impact on me and whatnot. But I've been thinking, especially since Sunday was Mother's Day, that I've been thinking about my mom and how much she has supported me and just been my biggest fan. And, I wanted to quit my job. I wanted to be a teacher. My mom says, go do it. I wanted to move to DC. My mom says, yes, go do it. So she's always pushed me to just do the things that make me happy. So I'm so grateful. And if you're watching, Mom, love you. All right, let's jump in. We're going to go into chapter 32, The Old Barn. When we left off last time, Mr. Sharif was kind of being a little bit nicer to Roz. He's opening up to her. So now I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Is he going to keep treating her this way? Long ago, Hilltop Farm was a very different place. The original farmers grew vegetable gardens and fruit orchards, and they raised chickens and sheep and goats. The farm had changed a lot since then, but there were still signs of its past. Low stone walls lined some fields. A rusty tractor sat in the weeds, and hidden within a densely wooded grove was the old barn. The barn hadn't been used in generations. Over the years, trees had quickly grown up around it, and moss had spread across its roof. But the barn was still strong and solid, and Roz wanted to take a look inside. The big barn door screeched along its rails. "Hello?" said the robot, peering into the darkness. "Is anyone here?" I don't know if I'd be as brave as Roz. That looks a little spooky to me. A mouse squeaked and scurried out of sight, and then Roz had the barn to herself. She stepped through the doorway and switched on her headlights. The vast interior was crisscrossed with thick wooden beams. Stairways and ramps led up to the lofts and platforms. Lanterns hung from hooks on the walls. Old-fashioned farm equipment lay here and there. The barn still had the faint smell of farm animals, even though none had lived there in ages. A large trunk sat on a work table covered in dust. Roz carefully opened the lid and examined its contents: a collection of farm magazines, a pair of leather gloves, and an old pencil. And then she noticed a small journal. The name Cyrus Sharif was scrawled across the cover. The pages were filled with handwritten notes and diagrams about raising livestock, growing crops, building barns, about working on the land with the help of strong animals and simple machines. Cyrus Sharif had also jotted his thoughts about the history of farming. He believed that the modern world owed its entire existence to ancient farms. When early humans first started growing their food, those farms were small, but they supported villages, which became towns and then cities. The writings were very wise and insightful. Roz read the whole journal, cover to cover. By the end, she almost felt like she knew Cyrus Sharif, whoever he was. The journal was a treasure. She tucked it into the pocket of her tool belt for safekeeping. Who do you guys think Cyrus Sharif could have been, based on what Mr. Sharif told us last time about his ancestors on the farm? Who could he be? And does he know about the journal? Chapter 33, The Autumn. Remember, autumn is another word for fall this season. Autumn colors were sweeping across farm country. The lush greens of summer faded to red and brown. Crops were harvested, leaves fell away, and the landscape turned stark and gray. On Hilltop Farm, the cows were grazing on what remained of the pasture grass, while the herding machine hovered nearby. The field machine was preparing the fields for winter. The drones circled above the farm several times a day. But there was a lot less to report in autumn. Although Jaya and Jad were busy with school, they always made time for Roz. The children never grew tired of listening to the robot stories, and they never grew tired of sharing their own. The bees and the mice, the deer and the frogs, and the raccoons and the squirrels and snakes were all getting ready for cold weather. So too were the birds. The owls spruced up their nests. The crows stockpiled acorns. The swallows were still swooping over the farmland, but they would soon be leaving for winter. And any day now, other migratory birds would begin passing through on their long journeys to the south. Who do we know that migrates? I don't know. Could it be? What do you guys think? Do you think Brightbill might stop by the farm? That'd be pretty amazing. Chapter 34 is called The Delighted Geese. A flock of geese had just landed at Hilltop Farm. It was the first flock of the autumn migration. The geese floated to the pond. Excuse me, cleaning their feathers and nibbling on weeds. But they all stopped what they were doing when Roz waved and said, "Hello." The robot never forgot a face, and she was certain she didn't know any of these geese, but they seemed to know her. Before she even introduced herself, the lead goose squawked, "Is your name Roz?" The robot stared at the goose. "Yes, it is." "And you can speak the animal language?" The answer was obvious, but Roz politely said, "Yes, I can speak your language." "Do you by chance have a goose for a son?" "Yes, I do," said Roz. "His name is Brightbill." At that, a voice blurted out, "The stories are true!" And suddenly the flock was smiling and fluttering over to the robot. When the commotion settled down, the leader explained, "All along our migration, we've heard rumors about a robot who could speak with animals, who has a goose for a son, who is trapped on a farm. That sounded ridiculous to us, but here you are." The flock was absolutely delighted to meet our robot. They lounged around the pond for days, chatting with Roz whenever she came by, and then they continued flying south to their wintering grounds. Another flock arrived, and the same thing happened all over again. Roz welcomed them. They were delighted to meet this legendary robot. And then the flock continued south. Then it happened again and again and again. Before long, the coming and going of delighted geese was just another part of her autumn routine. Straggling behind the others as usual was Wingtip's flock. When Roz saw them splashing over onto the pond, she felt something like hope, that they might have the news of her son. Sadly, the geese had no news to report, and as the flock took off and left Roz behind, she began to question whether she'd ever see Brightbill again. One more. Chapter 35, The Memories. Roz still dreamed of escaping, of going home, of reuniting with her son. But her dreams were starting to feel impossible, and she was losing hope. Was it time for the robot to accept her new life? Forget her old one? Forget? Roz was troubled by that word. You see, her computer brain remembered every detail of her life on the island, and it hurt to think that she might never make it back. However, the robot could always forget. She could erase her old memories. It would be like they never happened at all. The heaviness she felt now would vanish. But without her memories, who would she be? No, Roz wanted to remember her old life, which was good, because someone from her old life was maybe about to appear. This is the time at school where the bell would ring and you guys would scream, "No!" So I'm going to do it right here, leave you on a cliffhanger. Is it Brightbill? Or is it somebody else? I don't know. We'll see tomorrow who's back from Roz's old life. The question that I want you to answer today is, what would happen if Roz did erase her computer memories? She erased her brain. Do you think that'd be a good choice, a bad choice? Why not? I'm curious to kind of find out what you think. It would kind of stop her from hurting, but would it be worth it to lose all the memories of her time on the island? I don't know. You decide. All right. Talk tomorrow.